And welcome everybody to the Daily Space Weather. I'm your host Dan, aka smAsho, and we're looking at the sun here. 48 hours of data from the SDO in 1700 angstroms. Looking at Sunspot 2767 there. It's been shrinking over the past 24 hours since we did yesterday's Daily Space Weather video. Here are some more views. Here are the fields, and we've got an animation of that also from HelioViewer. And here's the last one day of what's been going on with the fields, as well as a comparison to the Earth scale. Well, not a lot going on there, not really shrinking or growing significantly. The trailing activity has not produced any umbre. It's still an alpha class sunspot. Here's a view in 131 angstroms of the exact same area. See a little bit of ejecta there around the middle of the video. Actually right at the very end, so some ejecta coming out as we make the video once again. Here's 94 angstroms, which looks a little bit greener usually. For some reason on HelioViewer it looks kind of aqua. And let's get into more data. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux is at 70, so we haven't seen this above 90 since September of 2017. And we welcome greater levels of solar activity as we've come off solar minimum. KP index has made it all the way up to 3. And it looks like a small, relatively weak coronal hole wind stream here. We don't see very many X-rays coming out of the local yellow dwarf right now. No significant flaring, not even a B-class flare came out of that sunspot as of yet. And the likelihood of seeing major flares is not really any higher than it was in the first place, as it's been an alpha class sunspot the entire time. Proton flux hasn't shown any sort of spikes in it. No surprises there. We are expecting a coronal mass ejection strike coming in shortly, actually either today or tomorrow. So we're not exactly sure when that will hit, as it's very difficult to calculate the speed and trajectory of coronal mass ejections. It's something that I'm personally working on, and I can't really divulge how I'm doing it or what I'm doing, because we need funding, because we're tanking over here. So we're looking at the real-time solar wind, and we see the fields are quite strong here. The BT, the top component, the black line, is at 11. So you can see the scale has expanded here to include up to 15. BT at 11, back down to 10 it looks like. And the BZ is at -4. So we could see major earthquakes within the 24 hours following the coronal mass ejection strike, which we're expecting in the next, say, 36 hours, would be my best guess. At least currently. Solar wind density has dropped back down to 3.8 protons per cubic centimeter, having reached a high of about 30 protons per cubic centimeter at the leading edge of that coronal hole wind stream. And we've seen the solar wind speed come up to around 350 kilometers per second. Current solar wind density down to 3.88 protons per cubic centimeter. Here's the geospace magnetosphere movie. And you can see as the solar wind density drops off, the magnetohydrodynamic pressure in the bow shock dropped off as well. And a bunch of pressure remained in the magnetotail, a feature we see often. And we won't get into the physics of that today. It's the Daily Space Weather. Next, going a little closer to home, looking at geospace ground magnetic perturbations. And we see significant ones here, especially over the Canadian North Pole and the South Pole, which, by the way, is someplace around here, off of the Antarctic continent, down there in the southern Indian Ocean. Smaller perturbations over the Siberian North Pole. Yes, we have 2 geomagnetic poles in the north. One over Siberia, one over Canada, and we should see some increased aurora as a result. And welcome once again to the Smash Lights section, where I talk about whatever I want. And today we're going to be doing some karaoke, because we've expanded our operation once again. Hey, congratulations, Giants and Dodgers! They took a knee during the national anthem. At least some of them did. So congratulations to the San Francisco Giants and the Los Angeles Dodgers, pardon the sarcasm, for curing racism. Oh yeah. Check it out. Check how united they are. They're so united that some guys knelt and some guys stood. Some guys were on 2 knees, some guys were on 1. I don't know how this cures racism, but congratulations to the Dodgers and to the Giants for curing racism. Just like when everybody put up those black squares on social media. Well, thank goodness, all of you geniuses, you masters of race relations. This was even better than when Jerry ate the chocolate and vanilla cookie to cure racism. Wow, racism cured because of black squares and because of guys kneeling. Well done. Let's talk about other cures for racism. Now, I hate the Washington Redskins. I am a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and I've pretty much always hated the Washington Redskins. I hate the way their uniform looks. I don't like anything about them. Guess what they're called now? They're called the Washington Football Team. They're going to go by Washington Football Team throughout the entire season. Sounds like a great idea. Hey, Washington Football Team, prepare to lose to the Eagles twice. It's going to be a delight. Who knows what they're going to do with the logo on the sides of the helmets? And by the way, we're going to get social justice stickers on the backs of helmets because we're going to have players putting stickers on the back of their helmets honoring victims of systematic racism. Have you noticed a little bit of corruption in your government? Well, I certainly have, which is why I'm still at odds with the local code enforcement officer. Hey, Sandy, give me a call. And if you're not familiar with what racism is, it's the belief that one race is superior or inferior to another race based on racial characteristics alone. Have you noticed a bit of incompetence, whether it's your government, or whether it's, I don't know, your favorite sports franchise? Or perhaps with local businesses, or perhaps your employer. Have you noticed a bit of
incompetence?
I certainly have, and I'm basically boycotting everybody. Everybody that I possibly can boycott, I'm boycotting. Because I'm sick of wearing masks. It's utterly COVIDiotic. And my immune system is like, for you can. And it's not scared of this nonsense at all. There's all kinds of alarmist stories everywhere and all kinds of alarmist idiots everywhere. Check out this SciTech Daily article. For God's sakes, homemade face masks need at least 2 layers to be effective. 3 layers is better, and 4,000 layers is better than that, as you will entirely suffocate. And then you'll be a COVID statistic. So, yeah, oh my gosh, oh my God, make sure you have 2 layers or maybe even 3 layers. What a freaking joke. A team of Australian researchers therefore compared the effectiveness of a single and double layer cloth face coverings at 175 grams per square meter cotton fabric with a thread count of 170. Who the hell cares? Oh my gosh. Congratulations to this woman for looking like a complete COVIDiot. Let's talk about how Fauci should shut up. Shut. I said, shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Writing credit to Pat Gray of The Blaze on this one. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Fauci lives in a very bad part of town. It's called Washington, D.C. It's a swamp. And non-swamp creatures try to put Fauci down. Fauci, I do care what masks can do. 'Cause you know, Fauci, dude, you can shut up too. And so I sing now, shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Shout out to Fauci! I got lost, folks. I got lost. Come on, Fauci. Shut up, shut up. Shut up, Fauci. Shut up, shut up. Shut up, Fauci. Shut up, shut up. I said, shut up, Fauci. Shut up, shut up. Shut up. Shut up, shut up. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. Shut up, Fauci. Fauci, shut up. All right, you get the idea. By the way, we got the lyrics on smAsho.com/forum, and I've edited them today, so please feel free to perform this at karaoke, if you can find a bar that's open. Let's talk about more health stuff. The love hormone oxytocin could be used to treat cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's. So yet another breakthrough in one of the most significant problems of human health taking place right now in the year 2020. Alzheimer's disease, yes, cognitive disorders, which cause people to be unable to complete a coherent sentence. People who can't talk off teleprompter, like Barack Obama, who has no coattails, stuff like that. Heavy metals are involved, and there's all kinds of new treatments coming out right now for Alzheimer's. So cheers once again. Oxytocin now, the love hormone. We won't talk about hormones or anything like that. Shout out to Colleen Gulick, as this one should affect you, Colleen. Holla about the love hormone oxytocin being used to treat cognitive disorders like Alzheimer's. Very hopeful. Let's talk about space. The Space Force is the most beautiful and the most amazing and most incredible force ever spaced into space. And it means always above, meaning it's never a bottom, it's always a top, which is why it's always above, okay? So the Space Force, it's supported by the other four branches of the military, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines, which is what the central four-pointed star represents. And here's its official logo. And let's talk about the symbolism behind it. Their operating words, their logo, their motto is Semper Supra, which is Latin for always above. Like I said, the Space Force, never a bottom. Always above. Not a power bottom, a straight up top. So the silver outer border of the delta signifies defense and protection. Now all military seals include this sort of symbolism. And I've been making corporate logos and so on for years. It's part of my graphic design skills. By the way, if you need anybody to do graphic design for your website or whatever, drop me a line, smAsho@gmail.com. I'll work for probably less than $100 an hour, depending on what it is you want me to do. Typical graphic designers will charge you $150 an hour. I'll work for $100, and if it's a cause I like, maybe as low as $60, $70, $80 an hour. Inside the delta, two spires represent the action of a rocket launching into the outer atmosphere of the central role of the Space Force domain. Okay. The two spires represent the action of a rocket launching into the outer atmosphere in support of the central role of the Space Force in defending the space domain. So apparently it's two rockets, and the four bejeweled elements symbolize the joint armed forces supporting this space mission, and the center of the delta is the star Polaris. Oh, I'm sorry. The four bejeweled elements symbolize the joint armed forces, and the center star is Polaris, which symbolizes how the core values guide the Space Force mission. So congratulations on the U.S. for creating another part of the warfare welfare state. The Space Force, it's the most amazing and most incredible, most obnoxious force ever in space. And it's going to be the most beautiful, most amazing force ever. Space Force. Okay. Let's talk about UV flashes and confusion and hallucination about how space works. For only the second time ever, astrophysicists have spotted a spectacular UV light accompanying a white dwarf explosion. So during these nova events, The way white dwarfs behave is not understood. The way stars operate is not understood. It all has to do with the dynamo model, as we call it. And let me just read what the article says about that, because it actually refers to the dynamo model. So the simplest way to create UV light is to have something that's very, very hot, and that's why we look at those different spectra on the solar surface. For instance, the 131 and the 94 angstroms views that we see on the SDO regularly, those are UV emission spectra. And when nova events happen, they don't emit that much UV light. This one did emit a lot of UV light. And here are the possible scenarios which would cause it to create such a significant UV flash. A white dwarf consumes its companion star, becomes so large and unstable it explodes. Extremely hot radioactive material in the core mixes with the outer layers, causing the outer shell to reach higher temperatures than usual. An outer layer of helium ignites carbon within the white dwarf, causing an extremely hot double explosion and UV flash, and two white dwarfs merge, triggering an explosion with colliding ejecta which emit UV radiation. So part of the reason why it's not understood is because of the dynamo model of the way stars work. And white dwarfs are important as they kind of fall outside of what we call the HR diagram, which is the Hertzsprung-Russell diagram of the way stars evolve. The fact of the matter is we've never seen a star get born or die, and so it's not particularly understood. If condensed matter physics was used in cosmology, it would rewrite all of the books. And that's exactly what's going to happen. Standard candles are not standard, and I thought this talked about the dynamo model. Let me see. Oh, the word dynamo is not on there, so never mind. But anyway, the dynamo model is the idea that inside of stars there is fusion happening. So inside the sun, the hydrogen is under so much gravitational pressure that it causes the hydrogen to fuse into helium and release massive amounts of photons, for example, and that whole process is what's driving things like the solar wind and the solar magnetic field, which is a ridiculous, ridiculous idea. And that solar dynamo model dates back into the 1800s. Let's move on to solar panels. Here's an article. I think it might be a sharticle, although it is from MIT. So anyway, solar panel output increased by 8% during the shutdown. Why? Because of less pollution. So things like contrails created by airliner activity at airports actually does make the planet cooler in the day and warmer at nighttime, especially cooler during the day. And this sort of thing also causes additional cloud nucleation, as does all kinds of sorts of pollution. So all of that sort of stuff makes the planet darker, and the brighter it is, the more solar panels output. So here's another article from SciTech Daily about solar panel output increased during the COVID-19 shutdown. So all kinds of people are celebrating. They're like, oh, pollution's cured because we've destroyed the entire planet's economy. So please don't hallucinate about the way things work. And as a lot of electric universe people are coming up with mentally gymnastic, extensive ideas about the way things like stars work. Stars are not electric, fundamentally speaking. You could say they're electronic on the surface, and they're made of condensed matter, so please do not suffer from a
hallucination,
as it could lead to delusion. Let's talk about magnetic field force lines, and we talked about galaxy NGC 4217 a couple days ago. This article is about how far away its magnetic field force lines extend from the core region, and you can see whatever's going on at the core is very skewed as we see this this angular aspect, and the Milky Way is actually similar to this because the massive radio source at the center of the Milky Way galaxy is also at a big angle like this. It could give us some insight into the structure of galaxies. But in any case, the magnetic fields extend about 40 light years. I believe it's 40 light years. Hold on. Oh, 22,500 light years. Okay, that's a little bit more reasonable. A significant percentage of the diameter of the galaxy overall. And by the way, condensed matter physics explains how all of this stuff works. The core of the galaxy, the massive radio source at the center, is most likely made of condensed matter. Let's get back to the pandemic. OMG, OMG for you can buy. I've survived a global pandemic so far. So did your ancestors. And many of your ancestors have survived much, much worse. So congratulations on that. By the way, we are streaming live to Twitch. So check us out over there if you want to see the content when it comes out live. Twitch.tv/smAsho. We're also on YouTube. YouTube.com/smAsho. Feel free to press like and subscribe over there. Nobody else does, which is why we've been at between 1,300 and 1,700 subscribers for the last year and a half. What a stagnation. Please consider supporting the content via Patreon and other links below the video. We're also on BitChute, thanks to our new subs over there. As we reach 200, we're almost there, folks, and we'll have to do a spectacular over there. Thanks to our patrons, the real source of funding. Consider becoming a Patreon. And we are going to add a bunch of new tiers in there, maybe even today. Look for that coming soon. Right now we've only got 2 tiers. Please consider signing up for a tier. And increasing the probability that these videos will continue to be free, publicly visible. We're also on Subscribestar. So congratulations. It's Smasher Price, my first pandemic, and I think the t-shirt's arriving today. We'll be offering that shirt. I believe it's going to be $25 plus shipping. And we are still looking into a few different possible drop shippers or other ways to complete orders, as opposed to having to get them ourselves and elongate the turnaround time. You can also reach me on the smAsho VoIP line. It's country code 1, area code 610-936-9799. That's 1-610-936-9799. And thanks for tuning into another episode of Smash Lights, part of the daily space weather and smAsho stream. And look for some Smash Lights unrelated to the daily space weather coming soon. Next, getting back to space data, and we are in the process of crossing the heliospheric current sheet into the... Why did the planet cross the current sheet? To get to the other polarity. And here's the current sheet crossing happening right as we make the video. It could be complete by now. Who knows? It's very tough to tell, and the magnetic environment can change, but I've been forecasting us to be back in the North Pole current sheet. And while this data is 1 hour and 52 minutes old, it does certainly look like we have crossed into the North Pole current sheet as that sunspot pulls the B field down and exposes the current sheet to the North Pole solar polar field polarity. Here you can see that B field being pulled down toward the south, and that's the action of sunspot 2767. Keep in mind the magnetic environment can change with no warning. Here's the 1-year electron flux graph. We're back into more normal, moderate levels. Here's the 3-day electron flux graph. Pretty normal once again here, and we're not expecting this to rise into warning levels today, as we have a coronal hole wind stream striking as we speak, and we're awaiting a coronal mass ejection, so that's going to remain quite low throughout the day, as those protons will take full advantage of the electrons in the Van Allen belt. Here's the total air column here, and we see some anomalies in the southern hemisphere at nighttime there. You can see there south of Africa, north of Antarctica, as well as over the Caribbean at nighttime, some minor charge-up events of electrons. Nothing to write home about. Here's just the ionosphere layer. The last one was the full air column, all the way out to the thermosphere. This is much lower, just the ionosphere layer. And this is where the GOES satellites endeavor to measure things. Of course, these things do move around a little bit with incoming solar protonic pressure, for instance. Anyway, there's 6 hours of data. It's looking a little wobbly on the sun-facing side here. There's the latest image, looking pretty normal there at 8:30 UT, making it up to 11 megahertz there. Here's where stuff is. There's where stuff will be in a week, God willing. Here's what's going on above my head. And again, if you're up before dawn, you should see Venus. You can see Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. And if you have a low horizon, you can even see Mercury at a magnitude 0, right on the horizon there. I like to use in-the-sky.org. Next, looking at weather.gov, and we see some flash flood warnings all around the, especially southern Texas there, the Texas southern Gulf Coast, as well as some other flood advisories and hazardous seas warnings there around the Gulf Coast, places like Mississippi and Louisiana, as well as some heat advisories and so forth. Let's take a look at volcanoes. Speaking of heat, Nishino-shima is exploding. Flight level 12,000 there. Semaru. Back on the list, minor volcanic ash plume is enough to be 14,000 feet above sea level. Dacono's exploding as well, flight level 7,000 there. Popocatépetl exploding, flight level 23,000 there. Sangay exploding, flight level 20,000 there. Revenador exploding, flight level 16,000 there. That's in Ecuador, by the way. Sabancaya down in Peru is exploding, flight level 26,000 via intermittent emissions. Please don't attempt to fly your John Denver-style ultralight homemade kit aircraft over the top of the caldera. You'll probably end up like John Denver if you do such a stupid thing. Let's look at the last 24 hours of earthquakes to see a bit of a lull. And if you're in an earthquake-prone zone, please have a plan. Prone zones are places like this. And I should probably include Cascadia as well. These are the areas where we've seen lots of deep earthquakes and potential for major earthquakes. If you're in those places, please plan to be an asset, not a liability. Keep your head out of your ass and don't be an asset. I mean, don't be a liability. Be an asset with your head out of your ass. You see what I'm saying. Know which buildings will collapse if you can't afford a bug-out bag, or if you can, go put together a bug-out bag. Have an extra pair of shoes and a change of clothes and some water and some food and some other disaster supplies, such as a first aid kit and maybe a flashlight. Depending on where you are, maybe guns and ammo, who knows. And going up the list here, we see a deep quake in western South America. No surprise there. Followed by another one only about half an hour later. That one's at Peru. And those were both low 4 magnitude quakes, both over 100 kilometers depth. And just scrolling up the list here, we're going to cite anything weird. Let's check this Hawaiian quake. And that one is at a depth of 35 kilometers. All right, back to the list here. Did I miss something? No, I didn't. Here's a deep quake in Alaska. And I apologize for the scrolling. It's a 4.3 magnitude, way out in the Aleutian Islands. In the middle of the North Pacific there, it's a 4.3 magnitude at 234 kilometers depth. So some deep quakes kicking off, not a whole lot of them. No major quakes, nothing over a 6 magnitude as we reported on yesterday in China. A bunch of aftershocks there. Hopefully everybody's doing fine. Let's see where lightning strikes are happening. And there are quite a bit of lightning strikes. Check it out. It's an active time right now as we actively produce another daily space weather video. By the way, if you're wondering, the title of today's daily space weather video is Masks 2 layers to 2,000 layers. Shut up, Fauci. Sunspot 2767 and racism cured. I don't think we have any terrestrial strikes in the U.S. right now. So we're not going to tell anybody that thunder's rolling in. Actually, I think thunder's rolling in. Son of my beehive. By the way, I don't own a beehive. Hey, northern North Dakota, land of a million lakes. There's thunder rolling in. Please leave a comment if you're viewing from an incredibly desolate location. Next, we're going to look at pressure maps here as we do daily. It's windy.com, who has a lovely mobile app, by the way. And that Anderson Cooper anticyclone there in the Central Pacific is staying strong. We're going to pause this at 12 noon tomorrow my time, and if you're wondering where I'm located, I'm in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania, so eastern Pennsylvania, within bike riding distance of the New Jersey border, a border which I will not cross. We won't get into the politics of that, but anyway, there's where we expect pressure systems to be at 12 noon tomorrow, according to the GFS forecast. Check out the jet stream of the Northern Hemisphere. It is utterly incoherent. This is the North Pole, the North Geographic Polar View, and you can see how incredibly disheveled and incoherent the Northern Hemisphere. It's practically as incoherent as local code enforcement idiot Sandy Nicolo. Here's the Southern jet stream. It's a little more coherent, although it's still pretty much all over the place. Here are the jets of the eastern world from the equatorial view. And here they are from the western world from a similar equatorial view. And we skew to the northern hemisphere since most of humans' population is located on this half of the planet. Is it the fault of Deneb? We won't get into it. Here is where water vapor is over Africa and Europe. Here's water vapor for the Far East and Oceania. Very dry times over Australia. Here's water vapor for the Americas. It does give you an indication where the Saharan dust is located. And here's the cloud layer. And we're going to show you a close-up of this area here over the Gulf. This extreme low, which is going to cause some significant rainfall. There's what's going on with that. And let's take a look at this area at North Dakota as well, as it's the lightning strike hotspot in today's daily space weather. Not everything's electric, folks, but some stuff is, like the atmosphere. If everything were electric, we wouldn't need a term electric, we'd just call it reality. Check out the streamers coming off of this cloud. Look at all those parallel lines. If you think those are chemtrails or contrails, I heard psychiatrists are doing amazing things nowadays. Here's a U.S. Doppler radar map, courtesy Weather Underground, a website named after a terrorist organization who bombed U.S. government buildings in the 1960s. And it looks like we're getting some rain over Pennsylvania. It's kind of needed. Here's a water vapor map for the U.S. And we're going to zoom in on a couple of locations here. First, what's going on over my head for once. As many times I make the daily space weather videos and I go outside and I go, nobody told me about this weather situation. Because if you don't look, you won't see. Call Ben Davidson and tell him I said so. Poor guy, he probably only makes about 12 grand a month on his YouTube channel. Here is the Gulf region in water vapor, which should give you an idea of the way this extreme low pressure system is going to track. And we've got some dry air mixed in down here, which is a good thing. That'll weaken the system overall. And we are getting a little bit of counterclockwise rotation there. We don't see any kind of a signal in the upper jet stream. Let's look at one more location. This one right here. To see all those parallel lines come out of that giant cloud. It's an atmospheric pond. And a bunch of rainfall looks like it's happened there as it's dried up. And what a great view of those Hall current streamers. You see all these parallel lines here. They're largely perpendicular to the mode of motion of the water. Because again, all things aren't electric, but some are. And thanks for tuning into the Daily Space Weather. Smash staff, viewers, friends and foes, tell your science noobs, tell your science pros, that I've been known to vanish. Thanks for flying American Smash Waves. Please keep your head and arms inside the Smash plane at all times, as we've got bonus features. It's Sunspot 2767. Here's the latest image of it. And we could be seeing some trailing ombre forming there. If it does, it'll become a beta-class sunspot most assuredly, very quickly. Again, the magnetic environment can suddenly change, folks. And we don't really see any complexity back there, but that's something to keep an eye on throughout the day. And when I say ion, the pun is intentional. Speaking of ions, here's the 171 angstroms view, which is an ionized state of iron. It's iron 17 or 18 or something like that. It's 48 hours of data there from the SDO. Thanks again for tuning in. Remember, stare at the sun, don't drink. Please support the channel. Welcome to the Neo Renaissance. And may that solar wind be at your back and that covidiocy absent from your universe.